Hello pioneers, in the last episode of our MEGAFACTORY build series, we expanded westward, modifying our rail hub and constructing twin towers for silica and quartz crystal production. This episode, we face a pressing power issue. Our growing megacity is pushing our grid to its limits. Can we build a rocket fuel factory powerful enough to generate another 100,000 megawatts of power and secure our city's future? Let's find out. So we've been expanding our little town like crazy, and our first block is actually done. We're smelting almost all our basic resources into iron, copper, we've even got quartz going, we've got limestone concrete going here. Most of our basic resources are done. And if we look at our power consumption now, it's getting a little bit scary, right? We're like constantly consuming about 30,000 megawatts out of our 50,000 megawatts. Our max consumption is way over, which is okay, I guess, because we know in our old factory, all those particle accelerators that we used to make those advanced space elevator components aren't ever going to go online again. But still, I would rather solve this problem before it becomes a problem, as in like a blackout or something. So I think maybe this episode, after completing our first block, it's time to take a step back away from our city and go ahead and maybe look into doing something about our power. So my original hope was that we could build up our city, prioritize the creation of nuclear fuel rods first, and that's why I've been choosing to build the stuff I've been building, like cement and quartz and all that stuff, because I wanted to get nuclear fuel rods and get our new final nuclear power station online straight away. But I'm actually not 100% convinced I can get that done with this little gap in power. So we're going to have to go for an interim power solution. Now our power solution is pretty straightforward. Obviously we're geothermal and stuff, and this stuff is not going to be used. The only thing that can get us there is pretty much the fuel power generator. So if we pop down a fuel power generator, we can see that it uses a lot of different fuels that we can select from. Now the best fuel that we can burn is ionized fuel, but ionized fuel is ridiculous to make, right? We've got all the various recipes. We can either make it out of rocket fuel and dark matter crystals, or we can make it out of rocket fuel and power shards, which seems pretty ridiculous. So either way, it's not particularly easy to do, I guess. I mean, packaging rocket fuel is not the easiest thing to do either. So I think what we're going to go with is probably rocket fuel. And the rocket fuel burn rate is much better than turbo fuel. Well, if we can't do rocket fuel, then we'll do turbo fuel. But let's have a look at our rocket fuel recipes to see if we can make a nice rocket fuel. So the standard rocket fuel recipe is simply turbo fuel plus nitric acid, which is not particularly difficult to make. It's just iron, nitrogen, and water. Our turbo fuel recipe is not particularly difficult to make either, but check it out. We can actually make rocket fuel directly. We can skip over the turbo fuel entirely and just make it in one of these things, right? These blenders, they can make rocket fuel directly if we just give it some regular fuel and we give it some nitrogen gas and sulfur and coal, which is basically the intermediaries required to make turbo fuel anyway. So I think we'll try to make this recipe. We need these four components somewhere close to a water source. Well, not a water, a nitrogen source. Well, we need a water source to make fuel, because that's the other thing we need, right? So the best way to make fuel is probably either this thing over here. Well, this is our standard fuel recipe. We can make it out of residual fuel, or we can make diluted fuel, which is this thing, which makes 100 per minute, or we can just directly make fuel at here to here. So let me figure out what the best way to do this is. There's a lot of different paths to fuel. Like we can make directly packaged fuel and then unpackage it as well. But let's figure out what the best way to make this stuff is. So the maths actually works out pretty crazy. If we are going to use rocket fuel to power, we can actually get about 144,000 megawatts of power out of one pure node. Now, this isn't the most efficient way to get fuel. The most efficient way to get fuel, I believe, is to use the diluted packaged fuel recipe. So if you were to make packaged fuel, you could turn this heavy oil residue and some packaged water into packaged fuel, which turns 30 into twice as much fuel. But we don't need to go to that extent because fuel is not our, blocking point at the moment. We're going to go and use the recipes we talked about before. So to make our heavy oil residue, we're going to use this direct crude oil to heavy oil residue. It converts 30 to 40 with some byproduct. That's fine. And then once we have that heavy oil residue, we're going to convert that into fuel using this blender recipe that converts 50 into double the amount. So essentially, we're converting the 30 crude oil into 40 heavy oil residue, so it's increasing the amount of crude oil, and then we're doubling it again to make double the amount of fuel. Anyway, I've worked all that out on a notepad, so you guys don't have to go through it, but basically a pure node can pull out 600 crude oil with overclocking. Then with 20 refineries, we can turn that 600 crude oil into 800 oil residue and some polymer resin or whatever. Then through 16 blenders, we can actually turn that 800 oil residue plus 1600 water into 1600 fuel. That's a lot of fuel. That alone, if we just shove it into 80 fuel generators, will give you 20,000 megawatts of power, which is fantastic. But if we process it further using 16 more blenders, we can turn that 1600 fuel and some nitrogen gas and some sulfur and some coal into 2400 rocket fuel, which can power 575 generators. That gives you 144,000 megawatts of power. Now that build is going to be extremely massive and complicated to build, but I want to build it just for fun. But we're going to do a more realistic version of it, right? And I scaled this back down to the limiting factor, which was this, I think this 1600 sulfur. That's a bit annoying given our belt carries 1200 at Mark 6. So scaling it all back about a third, we are getting this build. So with 12 blenders, we can make 1800 rocket fuel and we can generate this much power. And maybe we can shove the compacted coal into some coal generators or whatever if we can be bothered, or we can just we can just delete that. That's fine. But to do that, we need a lot less everything. So we just need 12 blenders to make the heavy oil residue, 1200 water, which works out a lot better than 1600 because that's just 2 clean Mark II pipelines. It gives us 1200 fuel, which once again is just 2 clean Mark II pipelines. We need 15 refineries and pulling out 400 crude oil out of a resource well, which is easy. We can use normal wells or whatever. And then, yeah, we can get our 600 heavy oil residue. So we're going to go build that. And I found the perfect site for it. And the perfect site for it is down in this corner, I believe, somewhere down, I think here. We haven't tapped this area at all. I think our old factory is doing something over somewhere. I don't remember where Nymeria is, where our old fuel generators are. But anyway, we're going all the way down south into this lake. I hope that's not where my current fuel generators are, because that'll really hamper the space I have available. But we're going to go check it out and we're going to go see what we have available to us over there. So the location that I scouted on the Satisfactory website map is actually Nymeria, our old fuel generation area. It makes sense because that's where all the pure nodes are, and that's why I selected it when we built our original base. Now, 2 of these nodes over here are already being used to make the plastic and rubber, which we kind of need to keep going to make our old base function still in the interim. So we can't really disable that. But fortunately for us, this 3rd node and 4th node over here, I believe there is one of these is a pure fuel node. I think it's this one. Let's just see. Yeah, this is definitely a pure node, right? It can extract up to 600. That's all we need. And that's pretty much what we need to get it going. And the only thing this node supports is this turbo fuel factory, which we use to extend our power in the first place. So it's only supporting these things. So we can actually take this offline and replace it with our new rocket fuel factory. And everything that we need is in the immediate vicinity. So we've got well, we're already extracting the coal and the sulfur to go into here, which is great. But we need to change all these belts to Mark 6, obviously. And the only final thing that we need to extract is nitrogen, which I believe is right here as well. Gas is easy to transport anyway. We need 1200 nitrogen, or 900 nitrogen, really. But yeah, we've got nitrogen there or there. And this one is 4 pure, 2, I don't know what it is. But I'm sure we can overclock whatever's happening over there to get the nitrogen that we need. So we can bring that across over here. The only question is, where do we want to build this massive structure? Now, given that we need up to something like stupid like 200 generators, you can see how much, what is this, like 40 generators over there takes up. So I'm going to use this void out here to build out the generators and the factory itself. So I think this will start the factory here, given that we need water. So I'm going to set up the factory and the building and whatnot, and then we're going to go from there. So I think probably we'll just start it from this tile is as good as any, and there's nothing out this way, so we're just free to build. So I'm gonna put down some foundation here. Just some dummy foundation so we know where the world grid starts. Then against this foundation, I suppose we can just start setting up our concrete flooring. So maybe here is as good as a start as any. So we just break ground here. And then we'll figure out which way we can go left and right and forward. I know it just hangs out in the middle of nowhere, but once I've got enough flooring in, that shouldn't be an issue. So like say here, 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 and probably start the factory from out here somewhere. And yes, I've still got my building costs turned off because I'm very far from everything and I don't want to waste time with trying to go get enough concrete to make all the floor required for this crazy build. But I think this will be fine because we can extract the water like right here. We can bring up a series of water extractors to get the 1200 water we need and start building our stuff over here. Now, given the full factory just requires 20 refineries, our reduced one is 15 refineries, 12 blenders and 12 blenders. We can set up a small factory to do all of that production. So we can just do it along here, I guess. It's as good as any. So let's start with our refinery design. I'm just going to do manual placements because we don't know like what everything needs. And plus we don't have a pattern for blenders yet. So let's start with our 15 refineries for crude oil. I suppose we can just start it here is as good as any. We'll leave 2 tiles of gap out here and then we can seal it off. Maybe we should go out a little bit because we have infinite space this way and there's a big tree in the way. I don't want it to like block my factory. Now we can do 15 refineries just like this, or we can do some elevation or something interesting and cool. I'm not really sure what I want to do yet, but let's just go with something straightforward for now. Let's just see what 15 refineries actually looks like. Alright, there's 15 refineries, nothing special there. Let's see what the blenders look like. Now, where's my center point of the refineries? I just want to mark it somehow. So this is my central refinery. Now, here we probably want to do our blenders. So we need 12 blenders, so we need 6 blenders on each side of this center line. Now, I'm going to give it plenty of space because there needs to be a lot of pipe work in between, right? And as I suspected, the blenders are actually massive compared to the refineries. But we've got room on this side, so we can add more floor here. So there's our 12 blenders. That is to make the oil residue plus water into fuel. And once we have that fuel, we need to then bring it up to another 12 blenders. And they're meant to turn that fuel into fuel plus nitrogen into sulfur and coal. So we can probably do some like very interesting design where it kind of flows downwards and line up these blenders because the output is directly going into an input, right? So to make it simple, we can just do this sort of thing. I was thinking of like elevating one of these up to make it look cool, but I think that's just going to overcomplicate the design. So let's just add another 12 blenders here and then let's just seal off the factory because there's going to be plenty of work to be done here. The reason why, like, I don't know how the fluid dynamic works, so I don't want to spend too much time on trying to like make things elevated in a weird way and then run into a bunch of fluid dynamic issues. But 12 to 12 is pretty straightforward because then the fuel can just go from one side to the other. That's like one of the inputs just straight up sorted, right? If I just get a line going across like that. So if that's going to be our factory, then that's sweet. We can now just seal this off, right? And it should be symmetrical on both sides the way I've done it. Nice. So then we can just create a very simple design for a factory that seals it off. We can do something interesting, get the smokestack sticking out of the thing and just get a building. But this is essentially the building that's going to be outputting our 1800 rocket fuel per minute. We just need to get all the inputs in, which isn't as easy as said as done. But let's start sketching out a nice little thing for this. So let's start with the back wall. We'll do a frame as we always do. And then since this building, we'll just conform it the way it sort of goes by getting this diagonally across here. We'll see how diagonal it actually goes. We'll use our road barriers. Then we can easily get this diagonal going out this way. And that's perfect. It cuts all the way to around here. And if we just start the wall, should we do one more? We can do one more. And then we can start the wall like say here. Till about there. We'll give the factory plenty of room to breathe. There's no reason to try to condense this factory at all, so I'm not going to. Then in theory, if I just put a thing here, it should align. Is that how it works? I'm not actually sure. I've never built a diagonal wall this big before. Yeah, there you go. Perfect alignment. And there's our diagonal done. So this is going to be the rough shape of our factory. Now, do we want another diagonal or should we just flatten it here? I think we just flatten it here. So we just do something like this. Now we'll follow the same pattern on this side. It's important to get the left and the right side the same. So from the blender, it's like 1, 2, and the third one. So from the blender, 1, 2, and that's my edge. And that is the edge here. So I'm going to start turning it in here. And then we'll just zoop a line all the way over. And then we'll do something like this. And there we go. That's our turn done. And now we just finish our frame. And there we go. That's our turn and our frame done. Now we can figure out how high we want the factory to go. So we'll go from maybe this tile and then we'll figure out the height. So I just want it to like cover everything, but not clip into the lights or anything weird like that. So let's just figure out that height. That's definitely too low. That is okay. But then we've got to be careful about these lights. Because then that covers the lights, right? Maybe we'll go up 2 more. That gives full clearance for the lights in case I want to do anything weird with my ceiling. So we'll go up to there. And then we'll go in here and mark out the height for our ceiling. Like that. Now obviously one of these tiles is going to be open for the chimney stacks, which is going probably to be that one. Yep, that's fine. We'll figure out the chimney stacks in a bit. Let me just run this side over the same, pretty much the same pattern. I think we can, yeah. The chimney stacks is a little bit close to the edge. That's my only concern, but it should be fine. We'll figure it out, as we always do. Let's just get the back frame in first. Alright, there's our back frame in. Now we'll do the frame over here as well. That way we can figure out how tall this thing needs to be. Obviously the blenders don't need to be as tall, but we should figure out what that height actually is. Is this a nice height for the blenders? It is, but there's no room for any lights or anything, so I'm going to go 1 taller. So there's our frame for the blender portion of it, and then we've just got to get these two to join somehow. When you're designing, just get your frames in first. You don't need to do anything complicated. Once your frame is in, you'll be able to figure out a much more interesting design than just making square boxes. So that's our goal, is to make things not square boxes. There we go. And that is our frame for the blender in. And we should probably get a second frame for the blender in this way too. I'll join up this part. Then we'll get that frame going across as well. Get it all the way over. We'll get that frame down. And there we have it. We have a basic frame for our stuff. Now we need to figure out how this and this is going to connect. So over here somewhere, it's going to be doing some weird, interesting turn. So probably like around here. So this will probably meet over here like such. And then this one needs to come up to get a nice clean join. And there's our edge. And at some point we need to, well, we'll use this as a guide. Now somehow this needs to turn down to meet this wall, and I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do that at this stage. But we can't cut here, but we can cut here. And then maybe if I get this turn done properly, it'll make a lot more sense to me. So let's get this one going up. And then let's get that going across here somewhere. So this one would have to go here to cleanly cut out the chimney holes. Yeah, that's kind of fine, I think. And then to get this and this to meet, it would be like a downward turn. It would be like this. And then all of this would be like double ramps down, basically. I think this is an interesting architecture. What do you guys think? And there should be enough room to do everything. Alright, let's fill this in and see what that looks like. I'm thinking, should we fill it in like that? Now if we use some double ramps to go down across here, I've just picked some spots where the foundation doesn't clip the chimneys. And if we just bring them down like this, we should be able to meet it somewhere. It's actually just one tile of ramp downwards. And then down here would be more downward ramp to wherever it meets, like here. And then we would just zoop that vertically, and that's basically the shape of our building. I think that makes a lot of sense. Just the frame over here looks a bit awkward, but I think that's okay. And we can do one more over here. And we'll frame it like this, and I think we'll just keep our frame nice and simple for this building. I don't think we need it to be anything super fancy. And that's the front done as well. I should probably do something here, but we'll see what that looks like. Let's do the same thing we did on the other side over here. Get these going up first. And then we'll get that going across here and see where that meets. I think I started it from this side, didn't I? We just do a point over here and figure out whereabouts that turn happens. And I believe it's around this tile over here. So that goes down like this. So that one goes here. And that gets us our same frame as on the other side. Now the only thing that looks a little bit missing is something over here. Because that cuts into there, so I can't do anything, but I can do this if I wanted to. But maybe not. Maybe I'll just get it coming out this way. Because I feel like there needs to be one more support structure here. So it won't be perfectly symmetrical, but it's fine. And I think that's a pretty nice looking frame. It's just missing a little bit over here, but I'm okay with that. In fact, we could just get rid of the stuff in between this smokestack area. And yeah, I think that's looking a lot better. I might, if I'm going to get rid of that smokestack area, I might realign the front to be more symmetrical, because at the moment it's not. So there's like 8 tiles there, and then we'll change this to 8 tiles as well. We were close. There we go. Now the left and the right should be evenly spaced, and I think everything in between here is pretty evenly spaced. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, perfect, and then 8. Nice. Now we've got to figure out how to fill this all in, especially with this little janky bit over here. But that shouldn't be too difficult. Here we might just fill it in properly. That way just the smokestacks stick out. Now can we do some more interesting stuff to this ceiling? Kind of. Is it necessary? I don't think so. Let's start doing the walls and stuff. So I think these small gaps, they should just be feature walls, right? So let's get some billboards in there. I don't have the thing to copy and paste my feature wall billboard thing. I'm gonna have to like make this again from scratch. One of these is black. That's not right. Almost. Just gotta get rid of the text color. I think that's pretty much what I want. I don't know what settings I use, but essentially I got where I want to get to. So let's just paste it in. There's our feature wall. Obviously we want to do the same thing on the other side, and then we probably need to get it to like cut it up a little bit so it's not so obvious. Now to cut it up, we'll use our trusty ramps. Something like that. Need an inverted ramp up the top. And hopefully that doesn't cause any weird Z fighting. That's fine for a feature wall, I think. Looks pretty nice. Now we got to figure out what we want to do with the sides and the back. Now we can obviously just put windows in. So let's just start with some windows. I think I want some more sort of featured windows, so we might try something different. I like my hex frames. That shouldn't clash with anything. Now only having hex frames seems a bit boring. So I suppose we can put some pillars in the middle. Like that, just to cut it up a little bit. Now what do we want to do with this big wall tile here? We can do windows, but I want some maybe pillars, sorry, maybe some ramps and stuff to sort of cut up the shape a little bit so it's not just one big square wall. So we'll do the same thing here using double ramps. And we'll just figure out the best way to cut it all up. Just do some diagonals, nothing complicated. Do it from both sides so it's symmetrical, and then we'll just grab one down the middle. Just a little bit of something to make the wall slightly more interesting than just nothingness. And now we can put our windows in. Give the building plenty of natural lighting, and now we can do some like LED strips and stuff at the end to make it all look a little bit better. And once I change the color, I'm sure it'll look a lot better. I'm going to do the same thing on this side now. Alright, that's the back wall and the little feature wall in. Now we can figure out what we want to do with our little side walls. We'll continue the pattern of windows. I just want this to be like a really nice and open looking factory with a lot of windows. I like windows. And this is perfect for a pillar to break it up, nothing complex. And over here we can just close it off with a bunch of pillars. I'll use the big metal pillar for this. Just something a little bit different, I guess. There we go. Another little feature wall. And then along the front we will close it all off, I guess. We're going to need to frame it all like this. Do we need to frame it all like this? Or should we just do something cool? We do need to frame it because there's no way you can just join the walls properly without the frame, unfortunately. Otherwise it'll clip into the wall. There's nothing too particularly interesting we can do for the front. I mean, we can just add in some diagonality. And we can just keep it open if we wanted to. We don't even need to add windows here. Just something different, I guess. I kind of like that. And there we go. We've got a nice little interesting zigzag wall going on over there. We'll fill this the same way we filled the other, and let's figure out how to do the roof. I'm not sure there's anything particularly interesting we can do with the roof, so I'm just going to add in my glass ceilings. At least here anyway. We need a snapping point though. One of these should be the right snapping point. I believe it's that one. Now we should be able to get the roof across. Now I'm gonna do something interesting here, I guess. We can make it go up. Just like a slight up. What's the slightest corner we can do here? 1 meter seems like it doesn't do anything. We probably need a snapping point as well. Let me think about how I'm gonna do this. What I essentially want to do is this. It gives me a snapping point in the middle. Nice. Nope. I have to do it from here. If I do that and that, can I close it off is my question. Like that? But then how do I close this part off? Like I can do that. That's so weird. I would need like a see-through 2 meter bit here. We do have these, which is these ramp walls. How do I zoom that up too? You can do something like that. Does that look nice? And then that gives the roof a little bit of a thing. Let's just bring it across and see if it even looks nice. Yeah, I don't know. Does that seem necessary? I don't feel like it adds too much to the roof, does it? And it's very painful to build. Might just not do that. To stick with our standard roofs, we tried something fancy. It doesn't work out very well. Stick with our usual glass frame foundations. Probably there. Then we'll bring that out this way. Now, if we really want to do the little incline to make it less boring, we can just do it along here, I guess. That will probably make it work properly. If we use a 2 meter roof to make it subtle, I guess. It's too subtle. 4 meter roof. A bit more painful to design, but kind of looks cool if it sticks out. Now we can use the corner bits properly. And that should line up nicely. Let's make it slightly more interesting. What do you guys think? Yeah, I think that looks nice. Better than perfectly flat. Alright, I'm going to fill in the rest of this section. Alright, that top section is sealed off. It looks reasonably interesting. I'm okay with that. Let's get more going this way. So let's figure out how we can get a decent looking roof here. So we'll just start sealing things off one bit at a time. So there's the first bit sealed off. Now this part will also be flat, I suppose. And then without over complicating anything, we'll just get that going upwards. Yeah, this little corner is going to be a bit of an issue, but we'll figure something out there, I guess. What can we fit in there? We can't put in this because that'll just stick out. I guess it'll just have to be open. We can't bring that out. Alright, that's fine. It'll just have to be open. There's no thing I can do to seal that section off properly, and this part will just stick out. We can just put some railings around that to make it look nice. And there it is. There's our roof done. I just need to seal off this wall as well. Same thing as we did on the other side. This one's nice and simple. It's just hex frame windows with a steel beam in the middle. And then this one is just large steel beams. Just a little bit of variety on all our walls to make it look a little bit more interesting than just either just glass or whatever. We'll just do big metal pillars right on here. Now, since this is a building in isolation, I'm going to use chrome for the entire building just to give it a nice black finish. I like the look of black. It's going to take a while to paint all this, but when I'm done, I'll come back and we'll continue on. All right, our building is done. It's full colored in black. I think it looks a lot better now. And I did a little bit of a feature wall on the front with these little zigzags being white. I think that looks pretty cool. And that's pretty much it. So we can now, I don't know why this doesn't align with this. Did I get the padding wrong? It's fine. It's close enough to symmetrical. No one's going to notice any difference. So we're going to go and leave it at that. Except this little bit is a bit weird. Let me just fix this ceiling. There we go. And I think I'm happy with this factory. I mean, at the very end, we can add some LED strips where it makes sense to sort of tie it together with the look of the rest of our factory, but I'm not too worried about it given that it's not really with the rest of our factory. Now we're going to need to get to this functional next. It's going to be a little bit difficult because I don't want to reroute the materials over there that are working until this entire factory is fully functional with the power generation, because I don't want to suddenly cut off like 10,000 megawatts of power from my base and have my base go offline. So when this gets online, it needs to sort of be around the same time as this going offline. So I'm going to figure out how to get everything done first and we'll work from there. So let's go into our, oh, we haven't got any doors for our factory. That's one major issue. Where should be the entrances to the factory be? I guess we can put one entrance in the back over here. We'll do a nice big entrance. Using these half foundations, we should be able to create ourselves a nice little entrance. Something like that. Once the lights go in, it'll make a lot more sense. Let's color that in. And we've got a nice entrance to our factory and we can start setting our recipes. So these refineries, we said we were going to try to make our heavy oil residue. So that will convert 30 crude oil into whatever this is, 40 heavy oil residue. So let me set that recipe for everything. Now the only thing this needs to input is crude oil. So let's get a crude oil pipe going. Now we could pump all this through the floor, but I don't think I want to. I think I want to pump the crude oil in maybe through one of these walls and then just get it going into the machines. Probably from a particular direction. Now crude oil is going to come from over there somewhere, so it makes sense to set it up like this. We'll get a pipe going over here. Let's set up our main crude oil pipe this way. Alright, with our crude oil pipe set up, let's see if the junctions work. Or have I set it up too close? I think that's like way too close, isn't it? Can I make it turn this way? Noodle kind of works. What about at 45 degrees? Yeah, 45 degrees works perfectly fine. So we'll do that across all of here. Alright, that's all the pipes of the crude oil in. So we can now go probably take this pipe out the wall somewhere. Now it's at a very, very awkward height. I'm just going to go outside and see where that even lines up to. Because it's going out a diagonal bit of wall, I can't even put a wall hole in here, right? How does a wall hole work on a diagonal wall? Like, even if I put the wall hole there, I mean, it kind of connects. It's just a little bit awkward. Does that look super weird that it's just coming out of this wall hole? I mean, if it looks terrible, we can always bring it from underground, but it should be fine. So this is our main crude oil pipeline. We just got to straighten it back out now at the right height as well. And then we need to bring it in all the way to over here. This is probably where the pipeline will come out of. This is the straight line path of it. So let's figure out how that might look. I mean, technically we could just path it down from the ceiling area. If we brought it down from, say, here. So that ceiling lines up to this line. That's a little bit annoying. If I were to bring this directly up, how would that look? Actually, not terrible. And it's straight. Comes out the ceiling. Then if we were to just follow it this way, that's actually completely fine. And we turn it here. And we'll turn it again here. Probably a little bit more so it doesn't clash with this one. That looks perfectly 90 degrees. And we'll bring it all the way to the other side. Now I know it's gonna look like it intersects with this pipe. I don't really care about this because, once again, this is part of my old base, so I don't mind things clipping through things of my old base because theoretically one day we're going to dismantle our entire old base. But essentially we want to bring it out over here somewhere. And then over here somewhere. And then it will just go straight into this thing. Cool. That's perfect. That's our crude oil sorted. That's one material down, many more to go. And the great thing about this one is it's all gravity fed, so we don't really have to use any pumps or anything. Not that using pumps is a big issue. Now, we obviously don't want these floor tiles muddling up our factory, so let me get rid of these. That's fine. It's just a pipeline in the middle. Now, if I get rid of these pipeline supports, this still functions, does it? If not, then I might have to rebuild this section. But we'll see if it works by getting rid of them. I'm not actually sure if this works or not, and I can't really test it right now. But yeah, there's a pipeline going into the factory, which is fine. Then the next thing we need to get in is water, and our water is just over here. So we'll get some water extractors going here, and we need 1200 water, I believe. So that's just 2 pipelines of water. But where does the water need to go? So let's go over here and figure that out. So all of this is going to come out as both heavy, well, as polymer resin, which we can just sink, it's not a problem, and heavy oil residue. So the heavy oil residue needs to go into all of these pipes. So do we just create a singular pipe that feeds both ways? Is that the best way to do things? Let me set this recipe so I can figure it out. So it's this diluted fuel that we're trying to make here. So I think for simplicity, the best thing to do would probably just to do a singular pipeline down the middle. And then we just got to get all the junctions in. Now, how are these junctions going to work is one of the main questions I have. It might just look really weird and awkward. Alright, so here is the pipes to get the heavy oil residue out of these refineries and pipe them into these blenders to make the fuel. I had to do some weird stuff over here to align them, but I think this is still cleaner than 2 pipes. Our next port of call is to get the water into it. That's the second ingredient. Now there's 12 machines and each one takes 100 water, so we can link 6 of the machines to one pipe and 6 to the other. Given where our water is, I believe the best way to do this and to conserve a little bit of stuff is to just go under. Should we go under, or should we just like punch it through the wall over here? There'll be 2 water pipelines, so I'm a little bit... Yeah, let's get the water going under. I feel like the water pipelines is going to be too whack to try to do. Because there's going to be 2, right? Otherwise I can get it going through the roof, which might look cool. I don't know. Yeah, I think for the 2 water pipelines, the cleanest way is to just get them under. So I'm going to insert some pipe holes over here. and then get them going under the subfloor and route it into some water extractors. When that's done, I'll come back and talk about it. Put all the refineries above into floor holes, and now they've been split into 2 sets of 6. So these should be our 2 sets of 600 water pipes. Now I'm going to just turn it this way, probably along here and along here. Kind of want them just next to each other a little bit. That'll do. Now take them to the edge. And from here, we're going to have to bring some water in. So our water source is around there. So we're going to maybe like turn it here somewhere, do something interesting. We'll probably just get the foundation coming out this way. Something like that. And then the water is just going to be from here. So how many water pumps do I need to do this? Let me just get rid of this thing over here, and we'll figure it out. So a singular water extractor can do 120. If we want to save some space and use some extra power, we can get 2 to do 600. So we only need 4 water extractors, and that can fit very comfortably here. So I might just do the 4 over here somewhere. We just do some concrete foundation against the water over here. We can probably tie that up pretty nicely. We just go 1, 2, 3, 4. Nothing complicated. No one's coming falling down a waterfall a little bit, but should be fine. Go power these up. Need to shove shards into all of them to get the right volume. Now we just need to get our pipe down there. So yeah, they line up underneath the floor pretty nicely. So we should be able to do a nice simple pipe job here. Just connect it here, grab a junction in the middle, and then we'll just take it to somewhere here. That looks fine to me. Now the minimum amount to turn this pipe is going to be here. So this one's going to turn to the edge, I guess. We'll get that going like here. And that can turn right on the edge here. Just like that. And now they can run underneath this floor and follow it all the way back to base. Like that. And then we're just going to go join it over there somehow. And we're here. So we just got to join it up to the main pipes. Nice 90-degree turns. And we've got our water source all the way from over there into here. Now, in theory, we shouldn't even need any pumps, right? Because they're all coming from here. The only place it probably needs pumps is here. We could do a water tower somewhere if we wanted to. But theoretically, we shouldn't even need pumps. But we'll have to see in reality what that might look like. Otherwise, we might put 2 pumps just here and here to make sure that the water goes in. That's not going to be a problem at all. We can set that up once we've got power going to this whole majiggy. But with that, all of our refineries should now have all the input that they need once I connect that crude oil up. And this refinery should be feeding one of the fluid outputs, which is the heavy residue oil. And now water should be fed into here. So now we can worry about our final recipe. I've already set all the recipes for this row of machines. So let's set the recipes for this set. So this one is quite straightforward in that it's just going to be making our alternative nitro fuel. And that's going to need all 4 of our materials. So let's go ahead and get that set up. So in theory, we should just be able to output that directly into there. Nice and easy. We'll just verify that recipe. Let me just copy everything over before I stupidly set everything up. But yeah, if we verify the recipe, yes, this takes 400 fuel and this thing produces, sorry, I should say, this thing takes 100 fuel per minute and this thing produces 100 fuel per minute. So it should be a direct connection. No, we don't have to worry about any liquid or pipe dynamics or anything like that. As long as all the machines are running, that should be fine. That's one of its inputs dealt with. Now we've got 2 more inputs to deal with. Before we do that, we should probably deal with this thing's polymer resin output because we haven't actually dealt with that yet. So we need something to carry that into a sink somewhere. It's not too difficult. So let's get that facing inwards. I think is okay. There's all the lifts in. We'll just get the mergers out. Now, does this produce more than 1200? I don't think so. 20 times 15, nowhere near 1200. So we should be able to do 1 Mark 6 belt. Got all my belts going this way, so I suppose our sink's going to go here. That clips a little bit, so I'm going to just turn it this way and we'll just put it here. It doesn't clip here so much, but it kind of blocks everything, but that's fine. Get that going up. And we'll just get that going in like that. Slightly different height for some weird reason, but that's fine. I don't mind that. I can't... What? Shouldn't they be the same height, or is the hole coming out of here different to here? Or did I just do something weird? No, it is actually a slightly different height. No, that's the same height. It's just out a little bit. That's fine. I'm okay with that. All right, so that will sink the material. Now we've got to worry about all the other inputs into here. So besides that, we need the nitrogen gas, which is another material that we can go and get. And because it's a gas, we don't have to worry about anything in regards to elevation or anything. So we can just go grab the nitrogen somewhere. Now my math says we need a 900 nitrogen gas, which is more than one thing can carry. And I think the closest nitrogen is just right here. So we just bring the nitrogen gas from the ceiling or something from right here. There it is. Let's go set that up. Now it's on such a weird slope. I don't even know if I want to do it with foundation. I might just set this up directly on the floor, maybe. Then we'll do something about the pipes. Now when that's, you've seen me set up fracking before, so when that's done, I'll come and talk about it. Now I've got the fracking part of this setup. It looks terrible and disgusting, but I don't really care right now about this side because no one's ever going to see this. So I'm going to figure out some way to bring the pipes over to this side of the world. We probably won't even use foundation for this, but we'll probably set it up from this side and bring it in. I do kind of want the pipes to just like come in nicely from here, and maybe it'll just follow the roof in like this and then go down. So I'm going to see what kind of scaffolding I need to do that sort of movement. I'm just going to drill a hole here for now. But essentially they need to go into here, right? That's where the nitrogen needs to go. And there needs to be two pipes because 75 times 6 is already 450. So times 12, 900, that's too much for one pipe. So we need to split this into two different pipes. We'll pick a center line and then we'll just use some pipes to do that. Some stackable things to do that. So like this. Now this should not intersect with the first pipe. Give it a little bit of room so we can just turn it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 machines. So here's the center point. We'll just use that for now and then we'll delete the supports. So it'll be like this. And then we need to get a junction going like that as well. So we'll get rid of this part of the pipe. And we'll get the pipes into the machines. Now I'm actually going to leave the supports because both pipes of nitrogen are going to come from the same place. So I need some space for it to go up and over. So I'm going to put one thing here and one thing here to scaffold the pipes. Now again, people like to hide all their pipes and belts. I still think pipes and belts look cool as part of the factory. So I'm going to leave them completely out and visible. It makes the whole place look industrial. There we go. That's that section done. Now we need to curve both pipes up into the ceiling. So to do that, I probably need like 4 tiles of space, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then what used to be over here probably needs to go up twice now. Actually, horizontal, I don't actually need this. All I need to do is this. Right, if I change that to horizontal to vertical, no, because, okay. We're just gonna have to leave that because someone told me that if the horizontal to vertical, the elevation is not high enough, it doesn't actually do it properly. So whatever then. Just do the double piping like this and then out to here. Now we need to bring this into the ceiling. So one of them is gonna go here. Okay, so let's do it from the ceiling then. So I'm thinking if it's gonna do this, yeah, so if it's going to come down from the ceiling, it's going to come down like this, right? But probably to these two things' heights. So from here, we need to get one. That's the edge. Probably like around here. So if I did one here and one here, will this work? I think that works nicely. Why is this one super weird? Get that going straight as well. I think that works. Now we should be able to join these two together. Now obviously it's not going to do a straight turn, but whatever at this point. It can just do this. I don't mind that. So now we've got our pipes in the ceiling. We can now bring them around and get them out that way. Probably get them to the square part, not the other part. Like that. And then like that. There's two straight parts and it's part of the ceiling, which looks really cool. The white pipes against the black stuff. Now I need it to go straight. So essentially I need to get some sort of scaffolding going this way. So we're going to do something like this. Oh god, it's not even going to be possible to build this scaffolding with this stupid diagonal thing here. I'm going to have to build it out this way a little bit and then build it backwards from here. There we go. Now we can get the scaffolding going out this way, and then we can link it to somewhere that we don't care about anymore. There we go. There's our two nitrogen pipes, and we're going to get all the way over there, and then we're going to link it to our fracking station over there. Alright, there it is. It looks a little bit janky from when it leaves the scaffolding, but essentially it's going all the way up and around that way, all the way to the nitrogen fracking station in the shortest path possible. I'm going to get rid of this scaffolding to see how the rest of it looks now. I think it looks fine. I mean, it's a bit hanging in the middle of nowhere, but again, I'm only looking at my factory from this side, so it should be fine. Now, if I flush the network, I just want to check, without these pipeline supports in there, it still works, right? If I flush this pipe segment, yeah, I'm getting flow rate, which is fine. Cool. So I can get rid of the pipe segments to make it look cleaner where I want it to. This part back here, I don't really care anymore. So we're not going to look at our factory from beyond this line. But there it is, our two pipes of nitrogen going in now. So we can go in through here and we can see that the nitrogen is indeed coming out all the way through here. And we're getting whatever flow rate we're getting, hopefully enough. And yeah, there should be enough nitrogen going into these pipes. We'll add in whatever pumps and stuff as necessary, but that should get two of our materials in. Now we just have to worry about sulfur and coal. As for these materials, this is all handled. There's no residuals or anything over here, so we just need to get the lifts going over here now. Did we leave enough room for the lifts is the question. Just barely. So we can get a set of lifts going here, and that's fine, right? Yep, I think that's okay. And then let's see what we do with these lifts. If I go up 1, 2, and then go this way. I just want to do one set to make sure the belts work. I think they will intercept a little bit. So say the material comes from here, and then we go into here with a belt. It does intercept a little bit. It cuts into this lift a little bit, but I don't think there's too much I can do about that unless I pull the lift out, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to let it do its thing. In fact, then wouldn't it look better if I just did this? If it's going to intercept anyway, why even use different heights? Let's just do everything at one height. And how does that lift look against that splitter? It looks fine. The lift intercepts the splitters and merges a little bit, but I think that's perfectly acceptable and fine looking. What do you guys think? Is this cheating a little bit? I'm okay with it. I can sleep at night, and therefore it's okay. So I'm going to get all those lifts in. Ah, but then here is a little bit of a trick because, okay, 1, 2, because there's more things over here, so we got to be a little bit careful. But that should be fine, and then the belt will just elevate here. That way it won't clip into these pipes. Did these pipes unnecessarily close to the thing. I should have pulled the pipes out a bit, but it's alright. We'll just do this for the lifts. It'll make it look more interesting. A little bit of variety never hurt anybody. So we'll get those lifts in, and then we'll get them reversed on this side. I hope I've done all my lifts the same height. It doesn't look like I have. 1, 2. All the lifts are in. Let's get all the splitters in and see if that still works fine. I say all the lifts are in. I haven't done the actual lifts for this side yet, but let's just do this first belt first, whatever it's coal or sulfur, right? I haven't even set all these recipes yet. Didn't I set every recipe already? Let me just double check. So yeah, it's coal and sulfur. Let's get the belts in. This one's gonna elevate, which is fine. Fantastic. Then we get the other belts in. Gotta get the lifts in on some of these things. So get the lifts in first. I think from here it needs to elevate because that's already clipping into stuff. So 1, 2. And then with the lifts in, we can get the mergers in, or the splitters, sorry. And it sits nicely on top of the pipes, which is fine by me. That one's a little too tall. And there we go. We can now get the second belt in. And that should all be the solids done. If we really hate it, you can always do this all in the subfloor, right? But I actually don't mind it. It looks a bit chaotic, but I like it. So this is the input now for the sulfur and the coal. So we just need to get it out of the factory somewhere. And it looks like this window is as good as any to get it out. Do a double conveyor lift. Makes sense to me. Do one here. Like that. And like that. I think that looks fine. It looks a bit weird, but it'll function fine and it should work nicely. Great. Now all the lifts, all the pipes and everything is in. We can bring these belts to where the sulfur and the coal are. That shouldn't be too hard. We do need to replace every single belt with Mark 6. So let me go ahead and do that. But we need a path up somewhere. And I'm just trying to think, where is the best path? So the connection point will be around here somewhere. And I'm just wondering, to bring it into the factory, should we go up and over this cliff and create a new path, or should we just bring it like along here somewhere? So to bring it along here somewhere, it would look, we need like scaffolding along here. And then these two would need to go to the ceiling. We need to bring it out so that it doesn't clip with the actual building. And then it needs to go up to the ceiling like this. And then it would need to travel over here somewhere. Up to this one. Is that the right height? Yep. Like that. And then it needs to go out this way. Then along here and here. And then let me take it out over this side. And we'll delete the scaffolding at some point. So bring it through here. And if we delete the scaffolding, does the random conveyors in the sky look a bit weird? Or does it look perfectly fine? I think it looks perfectly fine, especially when we remove these legs. I don't mind that. It looks like materials coming in from some random place, but I think that's fine. I like it. I mean, we can build something to wrap all these materials at some point to make it look more deliberate, but for now, I think it's fine just floating in the sky. So we need to bring this all the way up now to there. So let me start building something like a ramp into the sky. And then somewhere from this side, we need to bring it out this way along this line. So maybe this one, but it should be at the top of something, right? Somewhere this ramp and this path should meet, which happens to be right here. Yep. Cool. So then we bring the belt all the way up this ramp and it should meet over there. I'm obviously not going to disconnect it right now, but eventually we'll disconnect it and reroute it to this ramp. Again, I'm not too worried about what all this looks like, because if we need to dismantle this old factory, then we're going to have to clean all this up one day anyway. So I'm not going to do that right now. We're just going to get this operational first. Alright, we've pretty much made it from the factory all the way up the ramps over here. We do need to now change these two belts to be Mark 6. So I'm going to trace all these belts back to their source and make it all Mark 6. Make sure this lift is Mark 6. Make sure this is extracting at 1200 per minute. Fantastic. All of that should be Mark 6. Now we'll keep going back for the sulfur belt, because the sulfur belt is really far away. And if you're wondering why all of this is belts and not some sort of better logistics system like trains, because it's a power system and belts are by far the most reliable thing you can use for transporting a material. You don't have to worry about things getting full, power running out or whatever, they just work. So always use belts for the most reliable transport of materials. You can see my sulfur area is like really far away. So this is my sulfur extractor and I've clocked that to 1200 per minute as well. So we're getting pure sulfur and pure coal, and they should all be now transported on Mark 6 belts. So we're ready to go with all of our inputs. We can switch that over whenever we want. And in theory, we should be producing our 1800 rocket fuel. Now, of course, compacted coal is also going to come out, so I don't know what I want to do with the compacted coal yet. Obviously, we can burn it in a coal power plant, or we can just destroy it if we just want to chuck it in a sink. Ooh, a Mercer-sphere. I'll take that. Hello, Mercer-sphere? Oh wait, I've already taken this Mercer-sphere, never mind. It's just a shell of a Mercer-sphere. Anyway, our factory is done, and our inputs are ready to go, so we're ready to switch it on, but before I switch it on, I need to actually set up the power plants that are going to consume all this. So one last part is to take all of the fuel that's going to come out of here. Now, rocket fuel, I believe, is a gas, not a liquid. That's why it uses a gas canister to package it. So we're going to have to create one more pipeline of rocket fuel. And given that we're making 1800 rocket fuel, that's actually 3 full pipelines of rocket fuel. So we'll probably end up going to start with 1 pipeline of rocket fuel. And because we have 12 blenders, that just means we've got to take 4 blenders worth of output and put it together. Now I'm going to give a little bit of space for this thing because it's got a secondary solid output. But essentially what we want to do is bring our pipe system and do something like this. Or do I even want to elevate it? I probably don't even want to elevate it. Let's just do it on the ground. But is that 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't like that. Don't want the junction in between the pipelines. It makes it very hard to deal with. So we'll do that. And that's our 4th one over here. So in theory, 150, 4 of those makes 600. So we'll put in our junctions. Wait, did I do 5 or 4? Oops, I think I did 5. That's okay. Let's just get those pipes in first. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll get rid of the excess. We'll need all this anyway for future stuff. But let's just get one set of this going first, just to proof of concept all of this works. So that should be this, and now we need to deal with the compacted coal as well. We might just sink it for now. I don't know. I'll set up the power system first, and then we'll decide if there's some like extra room we can just tack on some coal power plants or something like that. But the thing is, coal power plants also require water to run, so is it even worth it is the question. Alright, I've inserted the lifts and mergers and belts to get rid of the compacted coal. They go underground over here, and there's no clean path over to the sink, so I've just done it underground. Now I've just added an extra merger, and now both these belts of waste merge in and get destroyed at the awesome sink. Like I said, you know, it takes water and stuff to set up coal power, and I don't think the 300 compacted coal is going to give us a substantial amount of power. I haven't done the maths on that, I could be wrong. But it doesn't matter, we can change that up later. But for now, the easiest solution is just to get rid of it. So everything's ready on the materials front. We just need to get power to this whole setup. So how are we going to do power is the question. We could do a bar. Where is the actual power? Let's see where it comes from. It comes from there. We could do a bar like over the machine like this. And then we can just hook up the bars. Where does the power come from on this? This one's bar would be like here somewhere. I suppose we can just do bars. Alright, we'll set one up and see how that looks. So we're going to go over the machine with a bar. It'll be like this. 12, 13 meter bar. Doesn't look too bad, does it? Might as well just get it to the ceiling. But I think this creates less wiring. Something like that. We should just be able to get power up like this. Reasonably clean. That's one row of machines with power. I'm going to figure out the power for the rest of them, and then when I'm done, we will carry on. Alright, got all the power in. So we're using bars for all the blenders, and we're just getting power to the bars, and then we're just connecting all the wires. And we've got another bar here with these refineries. I just decided for now to just connect it to the bar. There's no clean place to put another bar for the refineries unless I go over the top of these belts or something, but it looks fine to me. You can barely see the wires. I've connected it to the outside world via this bar. Over here you can see I've just put a power tower there. So every single machine now has power, and it has all its inputs. I just need to like fully hook up its inputs. Let's check the inputs that are hooked up. So obviously there's no crude oil hooked up to this one, that's fine. But then we hook up some water to this. Yep, they're all getting their water, I think, even without the pumps apparently. That's really interesting. All right, that's fine. I'm happy with that. Then, wait, does this require way less water than I think? It requires 100 water per minute, but only stores 50 water. I feel like I need to put in the pumps at some point. That's fine. We can do that from the bars anytime. And then over here, we're getting the nitrogen. Now, rocket fuel itself is a gas. We've got our pipe set up. This is going to carry 600 rocket fuel. It's connected to 4 of them. So now we need to get it out into the world, right? And actually power something. So let's just put in another row of foundation to start with. All right, for this to come out of the wall, where would it go? So my center tile is basically around here. So for example, if I were to put a thing here, now you can't put pipe holes into a foundation, can you? You can't put pipe holes into a foundation, but we can replace these 2 foundations with a wall in a bit. Let's just bring out a pipe here first. So assuming that's the pipeline for the rocket fuel, we can replace that with wall holes and whatnot in a bit. And then there'll be like 2 more pipes that come out of here. So along here would be my power plants, right? There's no point separating this area by any reasonable means. We can do one thing of separation and then we can just run power plants along this side. I think is the easiest way to do this. Let me just add in a foundation. We'll blueprint snap it to either side. And we'll just do a couple out this way for now. So let's figure out how many we actually need. We'll go to our power section and put down one of our fuel power generators. Guess we'll just start it from this line. How much space do we need on either side of the pipe? Let's try to condense this as much as possible because we know there's going to be a bunch of these. So say we do the line at the halfway point. I think that's plenty of space like that. And we're going to get it to burn rocket fuel. So that burns at 4.167. So basically, if we do the maths for this, it's 143 of these generators. But when we triple overclock this to 250% speed, we can discount that by 2.5. So we need 58 generators. So let's just get 58 generators to see what that might look like. Each side is 28. Let me just put in 14 and see how big that is. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5, 6, 7. So 14 is double this. The reason why I'm just doubling it to see how long it goes. And then if we want to keep going out that way, or we just want to double up the level. I think we just double up the level is probably the best way to do this. They're not that tall. They're not actually as tall as a refinery. And I think it'll look pretty nice. Before we double up the level, let's just verify that if I run a pipe down, this spacing is fine. Put down a couple. Let's chuck in this. And then we just go across like this. Yeah, that pattern should hold. Then we can double up the level. Let's see what that might look like. I'm just going to put some walls up to see how high we need to go. We definitely want to clear the chimney. So like about there maybe. I'm just going to put down some foundations to get my blueprint down. And then that's where the floor starts. I think that's kind of fine. So we line this up and it was against this center tile like this. That should vertically line it up perfectly. And we also got to figure out how we're going to get the thing up. So we're going to need like something like that to get the gas up. Luckily this is a gas, so we don't need to worry about vertical lift. But this should just go up like this perfectly fine, right? Something like that. Now, if it's turning up there, it's like 2 tiles out that way. So we'll just roughly place it, say like here. And that should give a reasonably straight pipe upwards. There you go. In theory, this should be perfectly fine. So I'm going to build out my 2 rows of generators out this way. And that should be our first 58 generators or so. And we'll see how that goes. There it is. Our first 58 generators are in 2 floors of 29 or whatever half of that is, 29 generators each. Well, it's basically 14, I think. Yeah, so it's 4 rows of 14, whatever that ends up being. I think it's a little bit overkill, but it's fine. We can always tone down the mass isn't exact, so we can always tone down the power slugs to meet that. Let me just put the power slugs in. Well, this one's already in, so let me copy those settings into all of them. Okay, never mind, I didn't bring enough power shards. I'm not going to go back to my main base yet. But we are pretty much ready to test if this whole thing works. So I'm not going to decorate any of this. It looks like some crazy nonsense at the moment. But eventually we'll decorate it if it all works fine. But at the moment, we've got enough power plants in. I don't have the power slugs, but we can at least test if that works. And then I can go get my power slugs while this is running. So, moment of truth time. How do we even turn this whole thing on? Basically, we just need to trace these two belts and this pipeline back and get the actual resources hooked in, which will disable our old turbo fuel factory. So let's start with the crude oil because that takes a while to travel. Well, then again, so does the materials, but that's fine. Let's just hook something up and then hope for the best. I did save my game before all of this happened, so if everything turns out horribly, then at least we can revert back to the old save. So we're going to cut this pipe over here, and then we're going to route this pipe into here. I know it's not straight, but that's not my concern right now. And this thing is pumping at 600, so we should get crude oil in. And while that's happening, we need to cut the belts over here and get that connected to here. So again, I'm not going to worry too much about aesthetics at this point. We're just going to get them over like this to the edge. Wow, it really hates me. Go to the edge, and then one's going to connect to this. It really doesn't like that, does it? And bring that down and then connect it like this. And then we're going to bring this down and just connect it, however. In the least janky way possible. There you go. There's our sulfur, there's our coal, both flowing at 1200. So in theory, that should now get back to the base and we should be able to get all of the machines online. Let's go start checking if the machines are indeed going online and rocket fuel is being produced or not. Nervous moment of truth. Okay, so we are constructing heavy crude oil now. Looks like the oil is flowing okay. I can't see some of these. Yep, oil is slowly starting to flow. Ah, we've got to connect this to power. Where's my power bar? Knew we forgot one vital component. Got to get rid of the waste, otherwise all of this is gonna stop producing. Alright, all of these machines are slowly going green down the manifold, which is what I like to see. Yep, these are just missing oil. Now in theory, this pipe should be getting heavy oil residue and they should be flowing into these blenders. These blenders are all slowly starting to work. Yep, they're going green, and then these are going green sometimes, and they are getting indeed their stuff, and rocket fuel is indeed starting to go out here. I can see some of my power plants are going green. These are red because there's no power. What? Why is there no power? I'm very confused, but there is power. What? Is there just not enough fuel in the pipes? I assume there's no fuel in the pipe. Alright, that's good. I was like, well, I thought the power wasn't connected. But no, it's just the rocket fuel is just slowly saturating. Alright, we're going to let that run for a bit to see if power actually gets produced. Now, if I look at my power graph, it shouldn't change too much yet. But in theory, when all of this saturates, it should be 50,000 megawatts of power. So I can see everything is slightly starting to go green. Of course, these are going to jam because there's nowhere for the rocket fuel to go. But this should be making all of the rocket fuel that we need. Yep, I can see these are slowly starting to go green as the rocket fuel saturates everything. Cool. So while that's happening, I'm going to go back to my old base and grab my power shards because it looks like everything seems to be working. Fortunately for me, the machine that makes power shards has managed to make this much before my old base stopped working. If you're wondering, my old base currently isn't fully functioning properly because my Nymeria has stopped producing fuel out of all things, so my trucks have stopped working. But I don't really care about that too much anymore. One, because we're not using build cost anymore, so whatever materials these are producing in my old base doesn't really matter. The only thing I need it to produce is these power shards, and it's produced a ton of them. It should tide us over enough so that our new base can get online and start producing these essential materials like power shards, singularity cells for our teleporters and stuff. And we should have enough to keep us going for now. So I don't mind that my old base is not working anymore. It's done its job. It's gotten us online enough in our new base to continue building. But I've got my power shards now, so I'm going to bring them over and we're going to go see if our power plant is indeed working properly. I do want this to fully function before I start tripling it up and building it over there, but it should be okay. I don't see any huge issues at the moment. Obviously, all these materials are backed up because we're not consuming everything. But if we just copy these settings, we should be able to paste them all now without any issue. Look how long it takes the rocket fuel to saturate. These are still not saturated, and it's going to take even longer now that I've got power shards in them because it consumes all that rocket fuel. But I hope my mass is done correctly. It doesn't tell me how much rocket fuel is sort of in here, does it? Oh, it does. 1. But we can see these white ones are all good. They're all white, right? And there's a bunch of red ones at the end. So it is slowly saturating down the pipeline. And similarly here, this is all green. But once I power shard them all up, they'll be white. And that's what we want to see. Great. It is slowly saturating. So if I look at my power output, we should be looking at quite a lot more now. So after observing this for a while, I don't think the pipeline that we have for our heavy oil is good enough, because if we look, the pipeline is full of heavy oil and then it's just not distributing this way. So I'm going to fix it up. We can't be lazy with this. So let me fix that up real quick. I did a much more standard piping. So all of these are coming out into this pipe, and then we make it use gravity to go down 1 level to go to this pipe. That way it never back feeds. And that should get it a lot more stable and cleaner. And we can see that it definitely is like full-time green now, and everything is fully loaded, which is fantastic. And the water seems to be okay without a pump. I feared that we might need a pump underneath, but it seems to be fine to me. It's all loading up pretty quickly. All right, cool. So that should get these going at full pace all the time now. The fuel shouldn't have an issue. Looks like it's fine to me. It's still just saturating. I just finished putting together these pipes, so I imagine it might take a while for it to properly fully saturate. And now I'm gonna wait for all these power plants to fully saturate again, because obviously this isn't gonna work. 600, yeah, that looks about right. So I'm going to give some time to do this. I mean, I guess while it's doing that, we can start decorating, right? So obviously we want to start with our pillars first. So how many should we space the pillars by? If there's 12, is it 14, sorry? So there should be 1 around the 7 mark, and then 1 at the end. So using big pillars, we'll do the ones at the end first, and then we'll figure out how many in between makes it look nice. Here's the concrete pillars there. It looks like it's reasonably held up now. I'm not sure what it is about this ceiling that I'm not loving. I guess it's because the smokestacks are going straight into the ceiling, right? I feel like we just need more pillars, like a lot more pillars, to make this look nice. Like columns and columns of pillars. How about every second one, basically? So like 1 to column, 1 to column. The other thing is I don't want to over-engineer this either, because we're only going to duplicate this like 3 times. So the more work I do for this, the more work it's going to be for me to fix that up later. But I think 1 2 column 1 2 column is like a reasonable amount of columns. And trying to figure out where this goes is another nightmare. Maybe I can zoop this into the ceiling and just go down. Is this easier to build if I just did that? Kind of, but then this doesn't. Kind of, but not really. Because I can't really tell in the ceiling where this goes, and there's no like control snapping for this. So yeah, I guess we build in the pillars first. And these become, I suppose, reasonably easier to place than trying to line it up to nothing. What do we think of that? Lots of columns make it definitely look a lot better, right? It doesn't make it look like it's just floating in midair, and it definitely requires this many columns. So let's figure out the column part first. And I think this is slowly saturating because I definitely see more machines turning on than before. So we're just going to keep letting it do that while we set up our columns, and we'll go check in on our machines every now and then and see if everything is working mathematically as it should be. Something's wrong. I've set this up wrong. I think that's right. These columns are easier to build because they're actually on the edge. Now there's all the columns in. It's looking a little bit better with the columns. Now the other thing that I'm a little bit concerned with in here is that it's looking a little bit bland. So let's see if we can't spice things up, and I'm just wondering what I should use to spice things up. Between the columns, we can keep it empty. Let's just add another row of foundation over this side to make it look like it's not hanging off the edge. Should we do another whole thing of foundation, maybe? Probably. That's looking alright. What else are we missing? Like I said, I don't want to go too crazy with anything. I feel like the top bit needs a fence. Let's just seal off this part first, because I don't see any need for this part to be not sealed off. This can be replaced by a floor hole if we need to, but it looks fine as it is. No, I can keep it open, I suppose. What's getting to me? Is it the floor typing? I'm not sure. But check it out. We've pretty much reached the end. I think this is just a little excess that I have. That there's actually not enough fuel to power all of these machines. I just built too many. But in theory, we should be getting roughly another 50,000 megawatts of power. And if it's doing that, then I'm pretty happy with that. Doesn't it feel like an extra 50,000 megawatts? This is getting 625. I mean, it should theoretically be that many, but doesn't look like it actually is. Missing some slugs over here, but that shouldn't be an issue. Sorry, I kept saying 50,000 megawatts of power. It's not 50. It should be like 30,000 megawatts of power. But when we at like 70 something thousand before, of course, because we lost the generators on the other side, we would have dipped a little bit first before we got out. Yeah, so we got out 36,000 megawatts of power, or roughly 30 something thousand megawatts. But then we lost a row of generators that the turbo fuel generators were powering over there. So we would have lost like 10,000 megawatts of power or something, or like a few thousand anyway, from over this side. That's fine, I think. But then again, these generators look like they're still running. What is going on? How much power did I used to have? Did I have, like in my head, I thought I had 70,000 megawatts of power. And now I have 84, but maybe we only had 50,000 megawatts of power before, and now we have 84. So I don't know, I must be tripping, but obviously all of these generators are now online and everything is running at full pelt. So our proof of concept definitely works. We just need to figure out some final little touches. For example, lighting. Now we could do light bars down the middle, but I'm thinking for this sort of open design, I pretty much want maybe floodlight towers. And how high are these? And these can't be adjusted, damn it. Floodlight towers would have been perfect, but apparently they can't be adjusted height-wise, can they? Could put them underneath, but that would be really weird. I feel like we need some sort of lighting underneath here, and I'm not sure what lighting to put in for this. I mean, we could use billboards. Maybe they need large billboards here for an LED strip. Now, how emissive are these billboards? If I just did ceiling billboards, would it look nice, is the question. I can't even see these large billboards. Let's just do one strip and see how emissive it is. Let's just do pure white light, like that. And we'll just do it like text only. And then we'll make it emissive 3 and glossy. That way it acts as a light. It kind of works as a light, I think. Let's add a few more and see. Is that lighting anything up? I can't tell if it's my torch or whether this thing... I don't think it's like... See, it's emissive, right? It looks like it's glowing, but it's not actually a light source that lights anything up, which is a shame. The glow is kind of cool. We can use it for other stuff, but probably not for the ceiling. I kind of want this to be lit up. Let's just try with normal lights then, since they're the only lights that let me do anything. So I'm going to put in a strip of regular lights and see if that's okay. I got the lights. I'm going to get that powered on, and then we're going to see if with a row of lights whether everything just looks a little bit better. Kind of. It's like too much. I'm not a big fan of this. Let's try some other stuff. What do we think of purple billboards on the inside of these pillars? I think they look kind of cool. Yes, I think that's it. That's what it's missing. A little bit of purple to tie together the look. Yeah, I think the purple pillars look nice. I like that. So I'm gonna implement that along the whole thing and then see how that looks. I think a little bit of purple just gives it that much. It makes it a lot better. Now, the lighting... I need lighting controls for this. I added a lighting control at the end there and just toned these lights down to about 30%. I think that looks a lot better. And I don't mind the big strip of light down the middle. It looks decent. And I think once we add these purple bits in, I think everything will look fine. So I'm going to go and add all of these to the pillars and we'll go from there. And it looks like all of these are now saturated and on. Finally. What about up the top? Yeah, pretty much everything is saturated except for like one of the very end ones, which makes, I think it makes sense because the number doesn't, it's not that round. It's not meant to perfectly power up all of these generators. So I think we're good. Functionality wise, everything is working. We just need to decorate it a bit so it doesn't look terrible. Alright, there it is for now. I think I'm happy with this. It looks okay to me with these little lights on the end of the pillars. They start looking a little bit more interesting. And I'm happy with this build. I don't want to go anything too complicated because I know I'm going to have to like triple this across all of these different builds. I've already carved out the wall for this side and there's going to be one more here. So there's going to be 3 sets of these. So I'm going to start building all of that out. And when that's done, we should have our 100,000 megawatts of power. But that's going to take quite a couple of hours to do. So I don't think I need to do this on camera. When it's done, we'll come and talk about it and we'll keep decorating. All right, check it out. Our build is pretty much done. We've gotten 3 sets of what we built here and I've hooked it all up and tested it. You can see I've upgraded these pillars a little bit because putting these pillars together was a big headache. So I set up a blueprint for it. And I thought since I was doing it in blueprint, I might as well add something interesting to this side as well. So we've gotten a little bit more pattern. I don't know if it's a little bit too much now, but I think it looks pretty decent. It's pretty bare bones still, especially this top layer. So let's see if we can add some detailing to sort of add a little bit of extra something something to it. What that something something is, I'm not too sure yet. But I'm thinking along the top layer, I think it just needs like fence or something like that, but I don't know what to make the fence out of and I don't want to do anything hyper complicated either. I'm wondering, can we do like a chain link fence or something? Because this is an outdoor thing. So I'm thinking firstly lighting. So I think the best thing to put on top of these things is flood lighting, right? Where the pillars are. Does that look nice? I don't know if this is just going to be like too much lighting though. But I'm liking the idea of wherever there's pillars, we just chuck some flood lighting in between. Let me just do one row and then we'll power it up and see if it's just like too bright or something. That looks kind of cool. That immediately makes everything look a little bit better, I think. Let's power up the lighting and see what that looks like. Where's the best spot to power up lighting? I might just do one of these middle ones, or should I just do this edge one? We'll do it from the back. Less visible. Now, I'm pretty sure they all operate off this same lighting control, so we should be sweet there. I might just need to upgrade this power pole though. There's the floodlights. Now, they are pretty insane. Do they not function off the same lighting controls as this? Let me just test this real quick. If we make everything purple, we can see that's all purple. Yeah, they are operating off the same lighting controls. So let's just make that all white again and at 30%. So yeah, they're now at 30% intensity. Nice. We just have to refresh the lighting controls. Okay, that's okay for here. But then what are we going to do about this middle section? Because this middle section is like, maybe we'll just do flood lighting on each side. Because otherwise we'd have to do like 2 sets of flood lighting in between each like this. You can't stack them on top of each other, so they'd be like next to each other like this. That's like too much, right? Yeah, I reckon we just do the flood lighting on the other end as well, and then we'll use these flood lighting as like fence posts, and then maybe we can put something in between them. I don't know why the orientation changes randomly every time I do one. So I'm thinking we can chuck flood lighting in between here. Not sure if that's like a little bit too much. Yeah, I think that's a little bit too much. Maybe. I don't know. Let's just do it here and we'll see. Okay, that's all the floodlights connected. I just need to power it from one of them. It'll have to be one of the end ones. Now there's flood lighting on this side. There's probably going to be flood lighting on this side, right? To match. I can't do all of them, so we'll hook the last one up to power. And that should get flood lighting to everything, except apparently these 4 for some reason. I've hooked this up to the wrong thing. Now all our floodlights should be on. Sweet. I think that looks decent. Now the only other thing that I wanted to do was maybe put some nicer flooring in. So where these pillars are, I feel like it should be a dark flooring. So maybe we'll just use asphalt. That'll be like the border for the entrance in. Takes so long to modify such a big build. I've got the floor border in. Now, how does that play with the rest of it? We probably need asphalt along here. Yeah, I don't know about that. I guess it looks slightly better with the asphalt. I feel like we still need some sort of like fencing along here. Let me just experiment. What about just like a basic wall along the edge? It just feels a little bit weird, completely flat. I think a little bit of a wall on the edge would look slightly better. Doesn't need to be anything super crazy. I just don't want it completely flat. Also, over here where it goes in, I feel like it needs a little bit of a catwalk or something, maybe. Maybe something like that looks a bit better. We can seal this part a little bit. I think that definitely looks a bit better. And if we seal the rest with railing, no, that kind of goes underneath the pipes, doesn't it? Oh, it kind of looks fine. Make that pipe coming up look a little bit more intentional. Yeah, I like that. Let's do that. Another one done. And that's the third one done. I just need to add the railings. Yeah, I think we're pretty much good here. I don't know what else I want to add to this. Feel like I'm pretty happy with how this looks. Looks like a pretty crazy looking power station. And here's our little production building for all the fuel. I think from a distance it looks decent. Let's just double check everything works before we leave this area. So our power is now pretty stable at around the 145,000-ish mark, which is pretty good. Let's have a look at all the production of all our fuel. Everything is looking very green to me. Let's just spot check some of them. They've all got plenty of stuff. And the rocket fuel is not backing up, neither is the compacted coal. I don't think it's backing up. They're all producing and they're not running out of anything. Fantastic. All of these are producing and not running out of stuff. Oh, the water is struggling a little bit. We maybe need the pumps that we said that we were going to put in before. Go under here and chuck in some pumps just to make sure these two water pipes work perfectly fine. There's no harm in it. Yeah, see, this is all flowing at 600, but it's not going up there. We either that or we add water towers, one or the other. Let's just try the pumps first. Check a pump here. Make sure they go in the right way. It's definitely going the right way. Now we just need power to these pumps, so we'll bring them down from wherever. Just bring a power point anywhere and then just get it in the pumps. I don't think that power line's going to be very visible anywhere, so it's fine. Now we can seal that off, and hopefully these things will get a lot more water now. We can check the end ones to make sure the end one has water. Yeah, it has plenty of water now. What about this side? Still struggling for water a little bit on this side. Where's my water at? Always with the fluid dynamics. Might be just taking a while for it to flow through. Now it's all coming through heavy. Oh, still struggling. But yeah, I think they're all good now. Yeah, they're all slowly filling up. It's just taking some time for the pump to do its job. But here we go. These water is all filled up now. All right, great. I believe it's all working. But anyway, it's giving a lot of power, which is what we want. Whether it's fully stable or not, I'm still not 100% sure. I mean, I don't like the looks of the fact that there's like 6 offline now. Did they say they have no power? Yeah, because there's no fuel, right? Why is all my fuel stopped? Check a couple of the other lines. This second line looks perfectly fine. This third one looks like it's struggling a little bit. But we'll have to let that run for a while and see how it's going. Let's check the top level. It's not running as theoretically perfect as I thought it would be, but I mean, most of it is running. This second line is like perfect. It runs all the way to the end. This first line and this third line is struggling a bit. Let's have a look at the pipes. Something here is struggling. It's the fuel. I mean, it's producing fuel constantly. No, it's the water again. But then now it's getting water. It's just the water is not very stable. It's a typical issue with the water not using a water tower. Pretty annoying. But it's pretty easy to implement a water tower here. Because what we can do is we can just do it over here. See, the height of the water pipe is over here. So we can, if we wanted to do a water tower, we could just do it here. we could just like cut out one of these floor things. We could cut this pipe and then do a water tower. It just needs to go up like a few levels. So say I did something like this. We could get it up like 1, 2, 3, say 4. That should be more than high enough. And if we just cut this pipeline, then we get it up the water tower like this. And then we get 2 pumps going up this way. Bring the power. Now forgetting the weird floor holes that it's missing, but essentially that's the water tower, right? And as long as there's 600 cubic meters of water flowing up to this height, then anything below that height over there should theoretically get all its water. In fact, in the subfloor now, I should be able to remove these 2 pumps. They're no longer necessary, and neither is this thing. So this should all get maximum 600 cubic meters of water once it's all pumping. Why is the flow stopped? I think it's doing its thing now. We've got to wait for a while for it to all saturate properly. We'll make sure these are indeed pumping the water correctly. Yeah. They're all clocked correctly and they're all extracting water as fast as they can. And yeah, now we're up to 153,000 megawatts of power. Let's go check on our power station again. I mean, it's going to take a while for it to get all the way to the end, but I can already see slightly less red. Given it some time to saturate, it looks like everything is now green, and where it's not green, it is getting to the end in the right order now. So it is just taking its time to saturate. That's gone to 10. I think we're good, maybe? Just this very last one is still struggling a little bit. But no, there it goes. Look at that. Water has reached all the way to the end now. Oh, still not in the right order, because that one's not full. Now it's full. I think it's trying its very best. It's just not very stable for some reason. I don't know if it's just the pipe length is too long or it's just taking a while to saturate. But yeah, I think it's all finally good now. It's going to take a while for it to fully saturate everything, but eventually I think all of these are going to go white, hopefully. But either way, like theoretical or not, I mean, we're still getting tons and tons more power, way more than we need. Hopefully enough for our new city to get to nuclear power. We're back down to 148. It's fluctuating quite a lot. I think we'll have to give it some time to stabilize. In terms of designing the factory, I think it all looks pretty good. I don't think there's anything too much I want to add to this right now. I mean, I could sit here decorating this for the next 3 hours, but I'm trying to confine myself to roughly between 1 to 2 hour episodes, and it's already taken me like 5 or 6 hours to build this thing. So I think we will leave it at that for this episode. We do have our power, which was our original goal, and it looks decent. Looks pretty cool to me. So we'll leave it at that. We're going to get back to our main city next episode and put all that newfound power to use. So if you don't want to miss out on that, don't forget to leave a like and sub, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.